At one point, though, and many, many, many people out there in the Ascension community who believe that they are connected to their higher self are probably really connected to their lower self. Because you can ask information from your lower self and get any kind of information you can imagine. Anything doing with dowsing, etc., and all these kind of things. These are all lower self connections. You can know anything through dowsing. You can know where anything is. You can know anything. But you're really connecting with your lower self and through the earth, not to your higher self. Your higher self is not going to be concerned with those kinds of things. And but for me anyway, when I made connection with higher self, what happened was this golden angel began to become apparent in my field of vision, usually off in the back. And I would ask the other woman, "Who's this angel over there?" And they just would say, "Well, that's the golden angel. You'll eventually learn about the golden angel." I remember one time they said, "Okay," they came to us and they said, "The golden angel wants to talk to you." And so we did this whole thing. We fasted for like 3 days, and we waited, and we thought the golden angel was going to come in and tell us, something that was going to totally change our lives. And it did say something extremely important, though it was so simple we didn't understand. We thought it was going to be a long something or other that we were going to go into. So we got all prepared, and we waited, and the golden angel comes in. And we sat there and looked at him, and we were waiting. Okay, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? And he just looks at us very gently and says, "It's only light," and goes away. Right over the top of our heads. "It's only light?" What do you mean it's only light? We didn't get it. It took me many years later to get that. That was like E equals MC squared. I didn't know what they meant. Though at one point I slowly began to understand what they really did mean by that. And then finally, I noticed that as I was beginning to communicate with my lower self, that the lower self would give me any kind of information I needed. In fact, there was a period of 6 months where the lower self told me every single thing that was going to happen the next day in great detail. I mean exactly down to when the telephones were going to ring, down to the minute, and what they were going to say, and the letters I was going to get, and everything else like this. And you can ask all kinds of information from the lower self, and they'll usually gladly give it to you, no problem. And so, but it's a polarity form of communication that was going on. I was talking to something that appeared to be outside of me. And then I noticed that in the beginning the communication was happening 3 and 4 times a day. But as time went on and the years went by, I began to realize that the angels began to appear less and less and less. Not that my connection to the earth was any less. I felt that all the time. But I didn't seem to need them very much. And then one day, about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago or so, I don't remember when it was, I was in Washington, and I happened to be in a medicine wheel on Orcas Island. And I was sitting there in a circle about to give a workshop when the golden angel appeared right in the middle of the circle and just looked at me. No one knew what was happening, but this is a big thing for me. The golden angel came right up to me and just turned and merged right over the top of me. And I knew in that moment that I understood that I had just made my connection with the higher self. And there was no more after that a sense of any need to ask anything. Because after that, it's just whatever I needed to know, I just knew. And I didn't have to try to plan or do anything. The reality just opened up for me and just did it on its own. Another level of communication with God began to take place. And I now know that this continues on in a growth process that goes on up all the way back to the source. Though it may continue on various stages and levels, and I don't know what they are at this point. But every time we come to those bridges, we'll know what to do, and that will be step. And it's just another growth step, and we'll be easily able to accept it as we go into each one. is a problem that can develop once you have reached a higher self. I never experienced this, but the kahunas warned me about it. But I never had it, so I don't know. I have it not from direct experience, but what they said is that many times the lower self, in a very childish way, would imitate the higher self. And so somebody would think that they're connected to the higher self, or had been, and then they start communicating, thinking they're connected with the higher self when they're really connected with the subconscious mind. And so they would ask for direction to do something, and the subconscious mind would send them all around the world or doing things or something else like that, and was just playing with them. You know, they're not going to do anything to harm you, but they could definitely sit there and giggle and laugh at you doing things all over the place when it was not really aligned with the purpose that you originally came here for. And so the kahunas felt it was really important that every time you made connection with higher self, you asked, and usually you have certain steps that you develop on your own, you ask, are you the higher self? Because if it is the lower self won't lie to you. And it'll just go, no, sorry, I'm not the higher self. And so it's real important that you establish each time some kind of way to verify that it really is the higher self and not the lower. Though I never, if it did happen, I was never aware of it. I never had anything, I never felt any kind of prankishness on the part of my lower self. To go to another level, the higher self communicates through to you on so many levels that you have to use a really vast imagination to see it. It can be in any conceivable language, or languages that don't even exist, or languages that exist on other planets. It could be through colors, through sounds, tones, pulsing lights, feelings, emotions, your own voice. There are all kinds of ways. It could be through the reality itself. It could be through people that just come up and give you messages or license plate numbers, or all kinds of things in all kinds of ways, depending on what it is that you want. And there really is no limitation except what you put on it. And I have seen all kinds of levels of communication in my own life that each time being ways I would have never thought of, yet were very pertinent to my understanding. And but once this level with the higher self is established, once you have reached this, and you know you have, then everything changes in your life, and you don't have to be concerned. You've just won the game of life on every level at all. Everything you need to know and everything else, you just let go and just watch it happen. It just happens like a movie. And all the wisdom and all the knowledge that you need in order to use the Merkaba and all the information on exactly what to do and where to how to move in this reality, you'll just know. You'll know exactly what to do. There's no more a need of an external teacher or anyone else. There's you will find that you are whole, complete, and perfect, and lacking nothing within yourself at that point. And those levels of growth will continue on up and up and up into the higher levels.